So you may probably have heard of Picasso, not the artist. This is a fantastic, fairly new concept from the United States. And here I am with President of Picasso Global, Reza Suleiman, who's going to be telling us all about it.
Picasso.
Yeah.
Real estate startup Picasso is officially the world's fastest unicorn.
This is going to transform how people buy second homes.
And what we're seeing is most of that demand is in second home markets.
Awesome, Sean. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Reza. Thanks so much. I know you're a busy guy because you're putting all the effort in at the moment into establishing your European base. And I'm delighted to say that you've chosen Marbella as your first port of call here in Europe. So welcome. I think the first question that most people are going to have is what are you bringing to the market? What are you all about in a nutshell?
Yeah, so the concept of co-ownership isn't new. You know, grandparents have been passing on their family's second home to their children, or maybe Sean, you and I and a couple of friends buy a second home, a holiday home together. That's co-ownership. What Picasso's trying to do is we're trying to streamline the process and remove the hassles of co-owning a second home.
Who's your target market? Who should be buying a Picasso? Is it groups of friends or is it strangers? What works best? Because you hear sort of horror stories about friends buying, don't you? And then they all fall out because they want to use it at the same time, or what sort of people are you trying to appeal to?
Yeah, so as desirable as it is, and it might seem like a good idea at the time, as you mentioned, you know, friends kind of don't take the thoughtfulness that we've done around, hey, who's paying the bills and who's mowing the lawn and who's arranging the financing and what if one of you want to get out? And so we've really listened to people who have co-owned second homes and created the company to help provide a service around the end-to-end from buying a beautiful Picasso-worthy home, as well as managing the property, putting all the owners together, the financing, and then making it just as easy for people to sell their shares as it is to buy their shares. Now, your question to me was, who does that? Generally speaking, our buyers have been what I would call upwardly mobile millennials, right? Maybe there's a husband and wife, they work in professional services, they've aspired, maybe they live in the city and they've aspired to own a second home in the Costa del Sol, right? Or somewhere around Southern Europe. They come to Picasso. We've also seen that often boomer grandparents also want to use a Picasso home to continue to bring their family together, create new memories, really enrich lives. And that's who we're about. People who buy Picasso believe in our mission, which is to enrich lives through second home ownership by making it possible and enjoyable for more people.
And is that because the concept is that you have a beautiful, lavish, palatial villa, maybe worth, say 3 million euros. But actually what you're doing is because you're dividing up the ownership into eighths or quarters, it becomes a more affordable proposition for more people.
Absolutely. You know, when we look at the number 3 reasons of why people don't move forward with a second home, number 1 is costs, right? Most people, right now, second home ownership is the privilege of the wealthy 1%. The second one is, even if they can afford it, they can't really justify it. How do I justify that this holiday home is going to be sitting empty 70, 80, 90% of the time? And then third is the hassle. Owning a second home, or maybe even renting it out on Airbnb, if that's what you choose, that becomes a second job because of all of the upkeep and maintenance. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, listen, let's say, to use your example of 3 million euros, right? Let's say somebody had a budget of 750,000. If you look at Marbella, which is where we first launched here in Europe, 750 gets you a modest 2-bedroom, dated, maybe 15, 20-year-old apartment in an okay neighborhood. But what if I could show you our first home, like a $3 million euro gorgeous villa, Villa Vida, right? With sea views, next to the golf course, 10 minutes away from the beach. And you could own a quarter of that, which is 90 days, right? For the same 750,000 euros, and you wouldn't have to worry about the upkeep. That's really the value prop and why I think Picasso has resonated with so many people.
And I actually am a fan of the concept. We discussed this last week when we met, and I said to you, sort of flipping it on its head a little bit, because I live in Marbella. My dream would be to own a home in London, but I don't need it all year. I just want it for, I don't know, maybe 40, 50 days. That would do me. That's fine. Maybe, a couple of weeks in the summer, a couple of weeks in the winter, just to, a change of scenery. But my goodness, if my budget was, say, £500,000, that doesn't buy me a lot in London. It might buy me a studio in a decent location, but maybe not even that. But with your model, I could get my 40, 45 days. I would still part own the property, but I'm in a much, much nicer property. I'm in maybe a £2-3 million apartment or penthouse in the center of London.
You know what? You actually nailed it. I was in London last week. We were looking at homes at around the £3 to £4 million. And again, for £500,000 a share, you're living in Mayfair on Queen West in a brand new construction, right? Beautiful building, right? And so it's, for those, you've worked hard, right? If you're spending 5-6 weeks, you really want to enjoy that moment and not be in a 15 square meter hotel room, with as an expense. Right? This is your own home, right? As London continues to appreciate over time, you have real property ownership in London, in Mayfair. You can tell all your friends, Sean. In fact, if you do this, I'll show you the place that I'm looking at. I'd love to co-own with you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Watch this space, guys. I guess the concept of the second home, I mean, that's what you're all about, isn't it? You're introducing more people to more opportunities at a higher level and a higher quality level. I think what we found in 20 years in doing real estate here in Marbella is that most of our clients fit your profile of buyer, in that, yeah, for sure, they want to enjoy their holidays with their families and their loved ones, but the house or the property or the apartment is going to be sitting there empty for the majority of the year. And like you say, a lot of our clients, they don't need to rent it out. It's just a way of maybe covering some of the costs. But if you didn't have that hassle, if you just gave someone an amazing property and said, it's yours for 45 days, that probably, I'm guessing, but from the research we've done, I think I'm right, that would cover most people's needs.
Yeah. Listen, Airbnb has built a tremendous business. What Airbnb is for renters, we are for owners.
Yeah. But
let's be honest, Sean, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, hey, I want to be an Airbnb host. Mm-hmm. I want to open my beautiful, 3-4 million euro penthouse or villa to 20-year-olds to party like rock stars. You probably overextended yourself on your second home, bought more than you needed, and now need to financially figure out a way, right, to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. But what if you didn't have to do that? What if you could buy the size that you did need, whether it was an eighth in 44 days, a quarter, and do 3 months? Or better yet, what if you could buy a share in a home in London and an eighth in Ibiza? Right?
Yeah.
You have a little bit of diversification, have 2 wonderful places to visit.
It's very interesting, that concept of kind of rolling it out and having more than one overseas home, because I think people are fixated on that, aren't they? And very often they grow out of it. We've had clients who've, had a holiday home in Marbella for 10 years and they kind of want to go to other places. So this also covers that as well, doesn't it? Because, why fully commit to one place? Why not just have an eighth here and then an eighth somewhere else, and like you say, place in London, place in the States? Wow. I mean, it makes sense.
I was chatting with a family out of London, and they have a second home in Cotswolds, and they love it. But it's that same thing. They're like, do we want to go there every time? And so it's a beautiful home right on the lake. We love the property, and we're going to be in that market. What we're going to do is what we call a sell down. So they maintain 25% ownership of their beautiful lakeside, like gorgeous Picasso-worthy home. And, they bought it a number of years ago, and it's appreciated, as many of these homes have during the pandemic. Now we're doing an equity release of the other 75% of the capital, but they're like, we don't want it back, Razor. We want to buy a share in all of the places. Imagine adding a pied a terre in Paris and a place in Madrid and Barcelona, some of the places that I mentioned, or a ski chalet, an eighth of a ski chalet, in the Swiss Alps. Right?
That's amazing.
Now, so you took your second home budget and reallocated it to several markets and get some, variety.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's a really great model, actually. Can I ask you why Marbella?
I love Marbella, and I am so grateful to be here. Myself, my wife, my 2 kids, my dog, the 5 of us packed 10 suitcases. We bought a one-way ticket. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada. So Marbella is home. My kids go to Swan School. We live in the Casablanca Beach neighborhood. I absolutely think, for the reasons that you and many of your audience, like, it is the best weather in Europe, right? The weather is warm, the people are warmer, the infrastructure. I mean, there's high speed here everywhere. If there was a place you wanted to work from home, Marbella is it. Your boss won't even miss you, right? The infrastructure from the train and the airport, Malaga International Airport is world class, right? It's safe and it's clean, right? It really has everything. And so we're really excited that Marbella is our first global outside of the US and where we launched in Europe first.